Ladies, young ladies, and gentlemen, hello everyone, or good evening to the top international news story. While Russia is in the process of put terrible pressure on Ukraine and NATO on the field hostilities. During that same time, Ukraine, which is out of ammunition, it has to be said, that Ukrainian soldiers had deserted most recently due to a total lack of ammunition. They left, they fled the battlefield, which prompted Zelensky to strengthen the demand for support military. Therefore, asking for money, asking for military help is his, as usual, you know. But when this money comes, very often, Zelensky takes a good portion, almost 70%. He pockets the rest, he sends to the Ministry of Defense, and that's it. Elsewhere, next. What's next? What's going on? Each manager takes his share. The rest is useless. The Western allies understood, therefore, that corruption that Zelensky had promised to fight against, this corruption is not in the process of disappear. On the contrary, it doesn't that taking a proportion undescribable and a proportion that is very painful. So, to wash his hands, Zelensky made a decision that makes people laugh. Moreover, its Western allies and even Russia is already mocking them because this decision is truly ridiculous. It's a relatives of Vladimir Zelensky, someone who is very close to him, someone with whom he does everything shady dealings. It was this person who was sanctioned by Zelensky for corruption cases. But the Tsar, he is really soaked in his corruption cases and being a close to Zelensky. So it's the proof that Zelensky himself is a material proof that he himself is steeped in the affair. He's immersed in the thing of the corruption. So the decision is causing quite a stir of ink and saliva. And so within the framework of this geopolitical conference, it is of course this decision that we're going to talk. But before we to continue, agree to share the maximum conference time, put in a lot of likes. Don't forget to leave your different opinions in comment. Let's go into the depths. And so, according to official information, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky imposed sanctions on November 13, 2025, to one of his relatives after the corruption scandal in the sector energy. There was a very big scandal in the energy sector. That's it. First, Ukraine doesn't even have any more of electricity. The little that remains to better manage this, Western partners send money. It's winter. It's the period during which Russia hits the hardest. That's what happened. We observed near Pokrovsk, Russian soldiers entered like in the movie Mad Max Furiosa. So citizens need energy, electricity. They need heating. And the Western financiers know they clearly need it. So we put the money in. The gentleman is habitually involved in corruption since he is in cahoots with Zelensky and pockets it. So President Volodymyr Zelensky has decided to impose sanctions against businessman Timur Medic, who is considered his very close friend, and who is accused of having orchestrated one of the worst corruptions of in recent years in the country. So sanctions were imposed on this Tsar, who is 46 years old, as well as another businessman involved in this scandal. That's it. And the sanctions include plans to freeze their assets. And according to a decree published by the Presidency of the Republic, Ukrainian, we don't know if we're going to continue to say that there is a republic in Ukraine, right? We don't know. Not. Share the conference. So here is the radical decision that Zelensky just took. Volodymyr Zelensky, for him, by taking this decision, he will be in the process of to restore its image and give back trust, of course, in its partners, right? To its Western partners who finance it. It's important to remember, as we said at the beginning of this conference, that Zelensky began, obviously still a lot to ask, but a huge amount of enormous financial resources. So what are the repercussions Zelensky has just made such a decision to take? The first repercussion, it is an admission of weakness, which worries his allies. So on the contrary, instead of reassuring the allies, the allies are worried. The allies are worried. So it's a major weakening because the allies say to each other, okay, listen, if it's one of his close friends, a friend of Zelensky, who in reality, how are we going to say it, is sanctioned by Zelensky himself for the reasons for corruption are that this is very serious. It's the system, it's screwed forever. Okay? Zelensky sanctioned his associate. The objective, what was it? It was to demonstrate that, you see, he's fighting against corruption, even if he's someone who is very close to him. So he doesn't care. He struggled, and the effect he was expecting was the opposite effect. And so, what if the close personal associate of the president corrupt? That means that all the power structure is splashed. That's very clear. That means that the entire structure of the power is corrupt. That's all there is to it. Leads to internal tensions because the opposition and the military are murmuring, power is already crumbling. The opposition, which is always opposed, but even the military are not happier. Yes. So the impact, the direct thing is that Kiev risks losing the confidence of its financial backers, like Washington especially. That's it. But for the moment, Washington is in observation. So, for the West, and this reinforces doubt about military aid, financial, because the West had always said is that the help financial that we bring there, Zelensky manages that well. But when some said they are asking the question, others, they say, no, it's okay, you handle it. Very good. So he had put in place a program to combat corruption, which should allow him to allow his country to integrate the European Union, since it was one of the essential conditions. It is at the occasion when he had struck off all the military officials in charge of recruitment. Now, here comes this scandal to intervene. So, Congress Republican American, who was already brandishing the Ukrainian corruption as an argument against aid, since in America they said, no, you send the money, that's fine, disappear into corruption and everything that happens there. But today, this American Congress is starting to be right. And so, the strategic consequences are that the more corruption explodes in Kiev, the more Moscow is winning the narrative war. Because the Kremlin has always said and insisted that it was a mafia clan that was in power in Ukraine. Whatever. That is what the West will give. First, they will divert a good part. And the rest, they are not doing well to organize. That's the problem. And so, ladies and gentlemen, here's the front page of the news. International. Thank you for sharing it. Maximum, I'll get back to you with some new news. And that was, of course, the voice of your humble servant, Samurai.